They say an Englishman's home is his castle, but what if you've just bought a castle in a town you absolutely despise? I'm talking about the places people flocked to for a cheaper mortgage, only to realise the discount came with a proper heavy price tag. I'm counting down the 10 towns people regret moving to in Britain. I've got the good, the bad, the cold hard stats, and the on-the-ground reality from folks who actually live there. So, grab a brew and let's find out if the misery is really worth the discount. Number 1 might just make you rethink your whole life plan. Right, starting us off down in Bedfordshire at number 10 is Luton. It's a bit of a grey commuter trap if we're being brutally, ruthlessly honest about it. You step off the fast train from central London, which only takes 35 minutes, by the way, which is exactly why people get suckered into moving here, and you're instantly hit with a town that feels constantly gridlocked, perpetually under construction, and aesthetically exhausted. But let's look at the numbers, because the numbers are the bait on the hook. The median home price here is £279,000. The rental market is having a massive laugh at everyone's expense. Average rents sit at £1,211 a month. The local median household income of just £36,900, well, locals will tell you straight without pulling any punches, the town centre is completely dead at night, offering absolutely nothing in the way of culture or entertainment for young professionals. People move here for the cheap houses, but end up completely isolated, barricaded in their living rooms. That said, it's not all doom and gloom, we have to be fair. If you head out to Stopsley, Wigmore or Birmingham, you'll find properly decent, stable neighbourhoods where people actually know their neighbours. The dry, cynical reality is that Luton is judged not for what it is, but for the unforgivable crime of not being its posh, leafy neighbour, Harpenden. Yes, the commuter discount makes sense on a spreadsheet, but the daily exposure to the high-density urban grind leaves most newcomers wishing they'd just paid the extra premium to stay put. Next is Wolverhampton in the West Midlands. You're probably aiming straight for Tetton Hall. It's this idyllic, historical, leafy suburb filled with independent micro-pubs, decent schools and that general vibe where you feel properly sorted and safe. But here's the kicker that catches every single out-of-towner completely off guard. Walk just a few minutes down the road and you cross straight into Whitmore Reens, an area experiencing social decay so severe that it regularly sees active police stop and search orders. That jarring, immediate contrast between affluent domesticity and raw urban struggle is exactly why newcomers end up with massive, crushing buyer's remorse. It's famous for its old industrial prowess and the motto, "Out of darkness cometh light," but today most of those high-paying tech roles are taken by people commuting in from the suburbs, not the locals. Let's talk about the cash. The median home price here is objectively cheap at £214,000. Renting, though? Blimey, it's gone completely pear-shaped. Average rents have spiked by a ridiculous 11.9% in just a year, hitting £928 a month. Meanwhile, the median household income is stuck at £35,748. People appreciate the I-54 enterprise zone bringing in manufacturing jobs, and areas like Claregate and Kingswinford get a lot of love from locals defending their patch, but the hollowed-out city centre and the frankly terrifying crime rates in the urban core are massive red flags. I mean, the council is pouring £4.4 billion in public and private regeneration, including a shiny new transport hub, but try telling that to the folks struggling to get a basic appointment at the Ford Houses Medical Centre. So is the misery worth the discount? Not a chance in hell. That aggressive rental spike wipes out the traditional affordability for tenants, leaving you paying a premium. Walk down George Street in Hastings, smell the bracing English Channel salt air, listen to the gulls, look up at the dramatic topography of the East and West Hills, and you'd honestly think you've struck gold. But make no mistake, mate, this East Sussex town is the ultimate poster child for failed coastal gentrification. It's been absolutely overrun by DFLs, down from Londoners. The town is heavily and uncomfortably segregated. You've got the vibrant bohemian art scene anchored by the brilliant Hastings Contemporary Gallery, but absolutely zero graduate-level or high-paying local jobs to sustain it. That means if you move here for the bohemian coastal dream, you are immediately looking at a soul-crushing, unreliable daily commute to Brighton, Eastbourne or London on a transport network held together by sellotape and prayers. The median home price sits at £236,000. Rents are punishingly brutal for a local economy this structurally weak, averaging £1,009 a month. The irony of Hastings is that it's globally famous for a battle in 1066, but the real battle today is just trying to pay your inflated mortgage without losing your mind on the daily train grind. Is the misery worth the discount? Definitely not. You migrate for a seaside utopia, but end up too physically and mentally exhausted from the commute to ever actually walk on the beach.
They used to call it Great Grimsby, with genuine earned pride, a massive powerhouse of the global maritime fishing industry. Some older locals even called it Niceby back in the day. Today, it's defined by entrenched multi-generational poverty and the smell of fish processing that hits newcomers like a cold, wet slap to the face. The absolute tragedy of Grimsby is the profound social isolation. You can literally buy a massive, stunning Victorian period home right near People's Park for absolute peanuts. But as the brutally honest folks are quick to point out, you are buying an isolated island of affluence. The moment you step off your grand driveway, you are surrounded by severe deprivation, dodgy HMOs, and visible poverty in the East Marsh and West Marsh wards. The median home price in Grimsby, up in northeast Lincolnshire, is shockingly low, sitting at £149,470. The rental range is equally rock bottom, averaging £614 a month. Median household income in the wider area might sit around £44,700 out in the posh peripheral villages, but the inner city wards are scraping by on less than half of that. Is the misery worth the discount? My verdict is definitive. Buying a sprawling period home for £350,000 doesn't insulate you from the macro-level reality of living in a town where half the neighbourhoods face extreme crime deprivation. You end up rich in equity, but entirely bankrupt in community. Do me a massive favour and smash that subscribe button. I've got more videos coming that might just save you from making a proper catastrophic mistake.
Now, the single most damning statistic about Burnley in Lancashire isn't the gloomy weather or the empty shops, it's the public health profile. Over 60% of its neighbourhoods rank in the top 20% most deprived in England for health and disability. That physical reality underscores every single aspect of life here. Yet city slickers keep moving here, lured by the stunning Pennine countryside right on the doorstep and the absolutely dirt-cheap bricks and mortar. The median home price is an almost unbelievable £129,000. Rent is incredibly low too, averaging just £624 a month. So what exactly goes wrong? Migrants who buy a large, affordable property on the rural outskirts find themselves totally, hopelessly dependent on their cars because public transport is practically non-existent. You're trapped indoors during the freezing, snow-heavy northern winters, fighting off literal plagues of field mice and dealing with a town centre that is in a right state of commercial vacancy. Sure, the town got some very decent PR from the film Bank of Dave, but the absolute isolation and the harsh cultural shock. Is the misery worth the discount? Look, that £129,000 average house price is just an accurate, brutal reflection of the absent infrastructure. You aren't getting a magical deal, you're buying exactly what a fractured, isolated local economy is worth.
Next, there is a dry, professional irony to Walsall in the West Midlands. Its main demographic appeal is almost entirely based on the fact that you've been priced out of Birmingham. You get a slight discount on housing, but you pay for it with elevated crime rates and a total depressing absence of municipal prestige. The median home price sits at £218,000. Rent averages £904 a month. Compare that to the median household income of roughly £35,000, and the locals do not mince their words for a second. Areas like Walsall are all right if you don't mind highly organised gangs nicking your car off the driveway, but you absolutely must avoid Blakenall at all costs due to severe systemic antisocial behaviour that the police struggle to contain. People only move here out of geographical necessity, not desire. Is the misery worth the discount? Not really, mate. Saving £30,000 on a house compared to the regional average is instantly undermined by the necessity of high-security camera systems and the psychological toll of navigating a decaying town centre every weekend.
When a local resident accurately describes the folks moving into a posh new housing estate as being rough as a badger's arse, you know exactly what kind of environment you're walking into with Middlesbrough. Situated up in Teesside, this town is frequently pushed by property blogs as a haven for young professionals, simply because renters here retain the highest proportion of their disposable income in Britain. But capital investment and new brickwork cannot magically erase deep socio-economic trauma. The median home price is incredibly stagnant at £136,000. Rents are dirt cheap, averaging £709, with a median household income of £29,500. The crime rate is a staggering 163 per 1,000 residents. People will explicitly warn you that areas like Longlands and Beechwood are absolute hotbeds for violence and harassment. Is the misery worth the discount? Constant exposure to violent crime means you're basically trading your physical security for financial freedom, and that's a rubbish deal.
Next town is Blyth. Let's talk about housing numbers first, because that's what draws people into the trap. The median home price in Blyth, right up on the rugged Northumberland coast, is a very tempting £188,000. Rents average a highly affordable £664 a month. People moved here expecting a rapidly gentrifying coastal commuter hub, hyped up endlessly by the reopening of the Northumberland railway line into Newcastle. But what they actually found was the brutal, depressing regret of the early adopter. According to the locals, Blyth has a schizophrenic dual identity. The urban core, it's fundamentally broken. Locals are still absolutely fuming over the council's decision a decade ago to redevelop the historic open-air market, a catastrophic municipal failure that permanently hollowed out the community. You're constantly battling unyielding traffic congestion on the two main arterial roads in and out of the town, and the town centre feels decidedly sketchy with antisocial behaviour. Beaconsfield Street gets a mixed rep, but the whole place suffers when compared to neighbouring Ashington.
Politically, it's volatile too. It's like buying a VIP ticket to a festival only to find out the main stage is currently on fire. Is the misery worth the discount? You get a massive discount to live by the sea, but navigating gridlocked traffic and a dead high street leaves most newcomers barricaded in their shiny new builds, feeling entirely deceived by the prevailing regeneration narrative.
There is a very specific, chilling sensory experience when you walk through Clacton-on-Sea in the dead of winter. It's a biting, freezing wind blowing off the North Sea through vast, totally silent estates of bungalows populated almost entirely by retirees. It literally feels like a municipal waiting room. This Essex coastal town serves as a terminal endpoint for a specific demographic, making it intensely depressing and culturally void for working-age remote workers who moved here just for the cheap housing. The median home price is £260,000. Rents, bizarrely, are quite aggressive at £1,048 a month. The town center is incredibly run down, and the summer tourist influx is a chaotic nightmare, while the winter strips the place back to its impoverished, bleak core. Working-age locals completely retreat to the adjacent, slightly posher enclaves of Holland-on-Sea or Frinton-on-Sea to escape the concentrated decline of Pier Ward and Flatford Drive. That's where cheap housing has been systematically converted into bail hostels and multi-occupancy bedsits, driving up local crime. Is the misery worth the discount? Absolutely not. An affordable mortgage simply cannot compensate for living in a demographic desert that is completely devoid of economic vitality or peer-level community engagement. If you're finding this video helpful, or if it's just confirming your worst fears about the British property market, give the video a like, hype, and subscribe. The ultimate manifestation of relocation regret is buying what you genuinely believe is your forever home, only to find yourself trapped with rodents in the walls and active drug dealing right on your doorstep. That is the explicit, crushing reality reported by recent migrants to Merthyr Tydfil in Wales. It represents the absolute apex of spatial arbitrage failure in Great Britain. It's a tragic, heartbreaking clash of stunning geography right on the edge of the glorious Brecon Beacons and catastrophic modern social decay. The financial incentive to move here is mathematically unmatched. The median home price is a staggering £149,000. The rental market averages £753. Mortgages here are actually calculated to be 14.7% cheaper than renting, making the cost of living index incredibly low. But, as frustrated folks point out, the hyper-localized social infrastructure is devastating. Migrants complain that the council drops homeless hotels directly into quiet residential zones, bringing severe antisocial behavior right to their front doors. You can't sell without taking a massive loss, so you're just stuck enduring it. Is the misery worth the discount? Not a chance. The absolute lowest price point in the housing market carries a heavy socioeconomic tax that the average migrant is entirely unequipped to pay. You are paying for your cheap house with your peace of mind, and that's the ultimate price of misery. So, there you have it. The grand illusion of the cheap property dream, completely dismantled. Now, to be fair, every single one of these towns has brilliant, resilient people who genuinely love their home and are grafting to build good lives there. But for the outsider looking for a cheap ticket to paradise, the price of misery is usually too steep. Stay safe out there, do your research, and I'll see you in the next one.